Everyone was gathered at the Griffin Corps camp. Uncle Tu Jing was the one in charge there. After listening to Lu Fan's plan, he called someone over. "This is Hu Jibu," Uncle Tu Jing said. "He's our reconnaissance expert. He has guided many people safely across Starfall Ice Lake before." Then he introduced the man to Lu Fan. The scout looked at Lu Fan carefully and gave a respectful nod. "It's nice to meet you." Uncle Tu Jing then gestured toward Lu Fan and said, "This is Lu Fan, the same young man who helped Dragon Nation win the national trials, and now he plans to go to Starfall Ice Lake. Can you guide him there?" The expert immediately waved his hand and said, "I understand, I'll take you there, but for a trip like this, we'll need a security team." "Let's hear him out," Uncle Tu Jing replied calmly. Then he added, "No problem. I already have the perfect officer candidates. Don't worry about the mission." He raised his voice and gave the order, "Squad 1, get ready immediately." Not long after, several of Lu Fan's old teammates, the same ones he had worked with before, entered the chamber and stood in formation. They saluted sharply. "Squad reporting, sir." Uncle Tu Jing nodded and said, "Listen carefully. The 4 of you will protect Lu Fan throughout his journey and make sure he safely crosses Starfall Ice Lake. Did you all understand?" "Yes, sir," they answered together. "We guarantee we'll bring him there safely." One of them looked at Lu Fan and laughed lightly. "Hey, junior brother, looks like this time it's my turn to protect you." He had always teased Lu Fan by calling him junior, just like in the old days. Lu Fan smiled and replied, "That's fine with me. I couldn't ask for anything more." Uncle Tu Jing looked at the team and said firmly, "I wish all of you success. Come back safely." With that, the mission toward the dangerous north and the mysterious Starfall Ice Lake was officially about to begin. Everyone soon left the camp. Outside, the land was covered in endless snow, stretching as far as the eye could see. The cold wind blew across the frozen ground as the team gathered together. They prepared their vehicles and their eagles, making sure everything was ready for the journey ahead. The captain looked at Lu Fan and said, "Lu Fan, everything is ready. We can leave at any time." Lu Fan nodded and replied politely, "Sorry for the trouble, Captain." The captain laughed and shook his head. "Hey, brother, it's nothing. Back when you were training with us on this icy wasteland, everyone thought you were some officer's son who had come here just to build achievements. But time passed so quickly, we didn't even realize it." Chen Kai stepped forward, placing a hand on Lu Fan's shoulder with a smile. "Who would have thought back then that you'd become a second-level dragon examiner? Now you're already a hero far above our level." Lu Fan smiled awkwardly and replied, "Come on, seniors, that's enough teasing." But the moment he called them seniors, Chen Kai became a little embarrassed and waved his hand quickly. "Hey, why are you making me feel awkward like that? I'll never forget those days or how you saved us back then." Lu Fan and Shen were walking ahead, talking casually as they moved across the snowy ground. But the 2 officers walking behind them had been listening closely, and they were clearly amazed by the stories they had heard about Lu Fan. One of them called out excitedly, "Hey brother, tell us too. What exactly are Lu Fan's feats? We want to hear what happened when Senior Lu Fan went on those missions." Senghai laughed and began telling the story in a slightly dramatic tone. "Oh, it wasn't just courage. It was more like terrifying calmness," he said. "There was one time when the 4 of us were surrounded by a huge beast. At that moment, we truly thought it was over. We believed none of us would make it out alive." He paused for effect before continuing. But then Lu Fan suddenly leaped into the air on his dragon. From a distance, it looked like a kid riding a dragon into battle, but he went in alone. He charged straight into the swarm and wiped out every single monster by himself. The 2 soldiers were stunned when they heard that. They exchanged looks and whispered to each other, "Brother, you're right. Someone who has awakened a second time would have that kind of power. That's exactly what we'd expect from Senior Lu Fan." But the captain glanced at Senghai, lightly knocked on his head, and said, "All right, enough storytelling. Save those stories for later." Then his expression turned serious as he looked at everyone and gave an order. "This is a message for all units." Captain Lu gave the order for takeoff. "Everyone, prepare to launch." "Yes, sir," the squad replied together. In the next moment, they mounted their eagles and soared into the sky. Within seconds, the team had already flown far away from the camp, cutting through the cold northern winds. That same afternoon, deep in the distant north, a strange cluster of clouds appeared ahead of them. Something about it looked unusual. Captain Lu narrowed his eyes and warned the team, Stay alert in this area. Invisible snow kites and cloud-like creatures often ambush from here. Tighten your formation." The squad adjusted their positions in the air, flying carefully through the icy sky. Flying on his eagle, Lufan slowly moved closer to Captain Lu. He waved his hand and said calmly, "Leave this to me." Captain Lu didn't quite understand what Lufan meant, but before he could ask anything, Lufan suddenly jumped off his eagle. Captain Lu's eyes widened in shock. "Hey, what are you doing, Lufan?" he shouted, thinking Lufan was falling. But in the very next moment, a massive dragon rose up beneath him, soaring through the sky. Lufan adjusted his speed in midair and landed perfectly on the dragon's back. Only then did everyone realize the dragon was Lufan's own companion. The huge dragon let out a powerful roar, its red eyes glowing fiercely as it spread its wings across the icy sky. Everyone was familiar with Lufan's dragon, but the two new soldiers in the squad were completely shaken when they saw Lufan riding the dragon. The pressure emanating from the beast was immense. It felt as if the air itself had become heavy. Everyone began whispering to one another, "Oh, brother, this aura is terrifying." At that very moment, Lufan activated one of his dragon's abilities, a detection power that removed hiding places. The black dragon's hidden sight skill came to life, nullifying all camouflage and disguise effects in the surrounding area. Invisible snow kites and cloud-like creatures hidden in the sky suddenly appeared. Lufan raised his hand and ordered, "Xiaoji, burn any hidden enemy you see. Don't let a single one escape." The large dragon beneath him roared in response. Its wings flapped violently, and flames shot up into the sky, incinerating the creatures in front of it before they could react. Then Lufan turned slightly and called out, "Xiaoji, use the full power of destruction." In the next instant, the dragon of destruction spread its wings. 4 blazing flames shot outward like burning rings, ripping through the air. Anything caught within those fiery rings was instantly burned, causing immense damage. The once calm northern skies were now filled with roaring fire and falling embers, as hidden enemies were reduced to ashes before they had a chance to strike. Within a short time, Lufan had wiped out all the hidden monsters lurking in the surrounding sky. The ambush had been crushed before it could even begin. After finishing the attack, he urged the dragon forward, and the squad quickly advanced. Lufan glanced back and gestured toward the others. "Captain Lu, everything clear now?" The two new soldiers were still stunned. They had just witnessed monsters, ones that couldn't even be seen, being destroyed in a single strike. For a moment, they didn't know what to say. Seng Kai scratched his head and laughed awkwardly. "As expected of you, Junior Lufan. After more than a year away, your methods have become even more terrifying." The team continued flying north at full speed. Gradually, the sky darkened as evening approached. Finally, they arrived at the edge of Starfall Ice Lake. Everyone descended from the air and landed on the frozen ground. All around them there was nothing but endless snow and ice stretching into the distance. As soon as they landed, the reconnaissance expert began explaining the dangers of the lake. "The stardust effect over this lake is extremely troublesome," he said seriously. "Any flying creature that tries to cross will suffer constant psychic and mental interference. That's why flying across is impossible. The only way to get through is on foot, moving carefully along the surface." He pointed toward the shimmering formations scattered across the frozen lake. "These are starfall crystals. Some of them are stable, but others explode when something gets too close. And once one explodes, it can trigger a chain reaction with the nearby crystals. When that happens, no one survives." The squad listened in silence as the expert continued. "This entire starfall field is powered by the energy of a fallen star. If any living creature approaches carelessly, the chance of an explosion becomes extremely high. When one detonates, the surrounding sky crystals activate as well, causing deadly damage. The good news is, if we analyze the pattern carefully, we can predict the chances of an explosion." After hearing all this, Lufan thought for a moment and said, "So the real problem is the chain reaction?" The expert nodded with a slight salute toward him. Captain Lu also gave a small approving look. "Exactly," the expert said. "Brother, you really understand the situation. Looks like we can rely on you." The expert immediately folded his hands and said softly, "Be calm." Then he used healing spells, and my class's ability is to analyze crystals that may be cracked so we can avoid their harmful effects. And then he simultaneously used the power of substance analysis, which reveals the essence of a targeted object. It analyzes each object and its structural, unbroken energy state, substance conservation, and inner goodness. It has the greatest effect on objects that are creatively stable or energetically active. Senkai leaned over to Lufan and whispered, "See? Expert Hu has led many teams safely through this place before. He can tell at a glance which crystals will explode and which won't cause harm. It may be a little slow, but safety is guaranteed." Lufan listened, but in his heart he thought, "Okay." He raised his hand and said loudly, "Checking them one by one will take too long. If we can trigger all the unstable crystals at once, the path will be cleared much faster." The others stared at him in astonishment. At that very moment, dark energy suddenly began to gather around him. The dragon beside him roared loudly, its presence calming. Then, without hesitation, Lufan ordered the use of a powerful ability, the power of the Emerald Mirror. This is a power that creates 2 Ben clones and selects 1 unit. The Ben clones gain all the skills of the allied unit plus 30% of the original's attributes. Each unit is granted a maximum of 2 loans. This effect is doubled for allies with a dragon or dragon clan. Suddenly, the number of dragons increased. 1 became 2, then 3, until 5 dragons stood in the sky simultaneously. They roared at the same time, and the air pressure became so intense that everyone felt a pressure on their chests. The soldiers panicked and whispered among themselves, "Wait, Senior Lufan has 5 dragons?" Lufan didn't waste a second. He raised his hand and gave a sharp order. "Don't hesitate. Attack those ice balls immediately." The dragons responded immediately. All 5 opened their jaws and released the power of lava flames. Blazing fireballs shot forward again and again, burning across the frozen ground. The flames continued to flow, melting and destroying everything in their path, while also returning energy to their master. For a moment, the sky was filled with fire and light. The sound of explosions echoed across the lake as the ice balls repeatedly attacked. But then something strange happened. Amidst the flames, Lufan noticed that 1 sphere remained unaffected. The fireballs hit it, yet nothing changed. Lufan was truly surprised by this. There was something different about that sphere.